There comes a moment in a man's life when he becomes tired, not from working, not from failing, but from constantly trying to prove that he is worthy. Worthy of respect, worthy of love, worthy of attention, worthy of being chosen. And here is the strange part. The harder you try to prove your value, the more invisible you become. You chase success. You explain yourself. You seek approval. You try to impress people who may never truly care about you. Until one day, you stop. You stop explaining. You stop chasing. You stop begging to be understood, and something unexpected happens. People begin to look at you differently. Your silence becomes powerful. Your presence feels heavier, and the approval you once desperately needed suddenly means nothing. Hello everyone, welcome to the Magnetic Masculinity channel. In this video, we will uncover what really happens when a man stops trying to prove his worth, and why this quiet transformation can create one of the most powerful forms of masculine attraction. Now, let's get started. Part 1. The need to prove yourself. Most men don't realize when it begins. It may start when you are young. Someone tells you that you are not good enough. Someone laughs at your failure. Someone chooses another person over you. Maybe you worked hard, but nobody noticed. And slowly, something changes inside you. You begin to believe that your value is something you have to earn. So you start performing. You work harder. You become stronger. You make more money. You try to look successful. You become the man who is always available, always helping, always trying to impress. But beneath all of it, there is a quiet question. Am I finally enough? And that question can control an entire life. Because when you secretly doubt your own worth, you begin looking at other people as judges. Their approval becomes your reward. Their rejection becomes your punishment. Their attention becomes proof that you matter. And without realizing it, you stop living from your own center. You start living for an audience. This is where many men lose their natural presence. Because a man who desperately needs to be valued cannot fully embody his value. He is always reaching outward, always explaining, always proving. But the moment you no longer need to convince anyone that you are worthy, something inside you becomes quiet. And that quietness is where your real strength begins. Part 2. When you stop chasing approval. There is a subtle difference between wanting something and needing it. A man can want love without begging for it. He can want respect without demanding it. He can desire success without needing everyone to know about it. But when approval becomes a need, everything changes. You start checking who noticed you, who replied, who liked your work, who respected you, who chose you. And every small reaction begins to determine how you feel about yourself. That is a dangerous place to live, because now your peace is no longer yours. It belongs to other people. But imagine waking up one morning and realizing you no longer need to convince anyone. You do your work because it matters to you, not because someone is watching. You dress well because you respect yourself, not because you need attention. You walk away from disrespect without making a speech about it. You stop explaining every decision. You stop trying to make people understand your worth. And something almost paradoxical happens. The less you chase attention, the more your presence is noticed. The less you speak about your strength, the more people begin to feel it. The less desperate you become to be chosen, the more naturally people become curious about you. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming internally secure. Because true masculine attraction does not come from desperately asking the world, "Do I matter?" It comes from quietly knowing, "I know who I am, and I don't need you to confirm it." That is the moment you stop performing and start becoming. Before we go deeper, I want you to pause for a moment. If something in this video has made you look at yourself a little differently, stay with me. Because what we are about to uncover goes much deeper than confidence, success, or attraction. It is about the relationship you have with your own worth. And if you are ready to stop chasing validation and start building a stronger version of yourself from within, subscribe to the channel. Not because you owe me anything, but because there are lessons in life that we only understand after we have suffered enough to finally listen. So stay until the end, because the final lesson may be the one that changes the way you see yourself and the way the world sees you. Part 3. The power of walking away. One of the hardest lessons a man can learn is that not everything deserves an explanation. There will be people who misunderstand you. Let them. There will be people who underestimate you. Let them. There will be people who leave because you stopped giving them what they wanted. Let them go. The old version of you may have chased after them. You would explain your intentions, defend your character, prove that you were loyal, prove that you cared. But eventually, you realize something painful. The people determined to misunderstand you will never be satisfied by your explanation. And the moment you understand that, you stop fighting for acceptance. You become comfortable with being misunderstood. You become comfortable with silence. You become comfortable walking away without slamming the door, without announcing your departure, without trying to make anyone regret losing you. That is where your presence begins to change, because walking away is not always weakness. Sometimes it is the clearest evidence that you finally respect yourself. You no longer stay where you are tolerated. You no longer negotiate for basic respect. You no longer chase people who have already shown you that they don't value your presence. And strangely enough, this is when people begin to feel the difference. Not because you became arrogant, but because you stopped abandoning yourself just to keep someone else. A man becomes powerful when he realizes that losing someone is painful, but losing himself is far more expensive. And once you understand that, you stop asking, "How do I make them choose me?" You begin asking, "Why was I willing to betray myself just to be chosen?" Part 4. When your silence becomes your strength. There is a point in a man's life when he stops needing to announce who he is. He simply becomes it. He no longer tells people that he is disciplined. They can see it in the way he lives. He no longer talks about his ambitions. They can see them in the way he spends his time. He no longer tells people that he has standards. They discover them when he calmly walks away from what violates them. This is the difference between looking powerful and actually becoming powerful. A man who is insecure needs an audience. A man who is grounded does not. He doesn't need to dominate every conversation. He doesn't need the last word. He doesn't need to prove that he is the smartest person in the room. He can sit quietly. He can listen. He can let someone disagree with him without immediately becoming defensive. And most importantly, he can remain himself when nobody's watching. That kind of confidence is difficult to fake because it doesn't come from appearance. It comes from alignment. Your words match your actions. Your boundaries match your values. Your private life is not completely different from the image you show the world. And when a man reaches that point, something changes in his presence. He becomes harder to manipulate, harder to impress, harder to shake. Not because he has become emotionless, but because he has finally stopped handing other people the responsibility for his self-worth. He doesn't walk into a room asking, "Do they like me?" He walks in knowing, "I belong wherever I choose to stand." And that quiet certainty is far more attractive than any attempt to impress. Part 5. You become attractive when you stop trying to be. Perhaps the greatest paradox is this. The moment you stop trying to be impressive, you become impressive. Not because you suddenly become richer, stronger, or more successful, but because you become free. Free from the exhausting need to be understood. Free from the fear of rejection. Free from the endless comparison. Free from the invisible pressure to prove that your life is worth something. You begin choosing differently. You don't chase every opportunity. You don't answer every insult. You don't enter every competition. You don't need every woman to find you attractive. You don't need every man to respect you. Because your identity is no longer built on their reactions. And that changes everything. You become selective with your time, careful with your words, peaceful with your solitude. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can walk away without hatred. You can succeed without needing applause. And you can fail without believing that failure defines you. This is what real masculine attraction looks like. It isn't a performance. It isn't a collection of tricks designed to make people desire you. It is the natural result of a man who has finally stopped negotiating with his own worth. And perhaps that is the secret most people spend their entire lives searching for. You don't become more valuable by convincing the world of your value. You become more powerful when you no longer need the world to agree. So stop asking, how can I make them see my worth? Build a life that makes you see it. Because when you truly know who you are, you don't chase attention. You don't chase validation. You don't chase people. You simply walk forward. And somehow, the right people begin walking toward you. Conclusion. Your worth was never something you needed to prove. Stop chasing approval. Stop explaining yourself to people who refuse to understand you. Instead, focus on becoming someone you can respect when no one is watching. Keep your promises to yourself. Protect your peace. Walk away from what repeatedly disrespects you. And remember, rejection is not a verdict on your value. Real strength begins when you no longer need the world to confirm who you are. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey of becoming stronger, wiser, and more grounded. Build yourself in silence. Let your life speak for you. Thank you for taking the time to watch until the end of the video. See you in the next videos.